Hey, I'm Ossie from Three Monkeys Amps, Three Monkeys Solderless, home of the world's best solderless cable systems for both your audio path and your DC path. And it's good to be back. It's been too long, but we're here and we're going to make another sort of like fun instructional video along the lines of the sort of stuff we've been doing, over the last months. And I want to thank everybody that's been watching the videos. I've gotten a lot of subscribers over the past, a lot more subscribers, new guys, over the past month or two, and I really appreciate that. And I hope to give you guys some stuff to watch, and maybe inspire some ideas for you to make some things that, for yourself that aren't too complicated but are kind of cool. Or ideas about signal chains and ideas about different sounds and some of the experiences that I've had, as an amp builder and as working with a lot of musicians and working with a lot of people and trying to problem solve for myself and, just grow as a technician. So in keeping with the idiocy that we've got going on here, we're going to be doing... Well, there was this thing that I used to love to watch, and I'm sure a lot of you guys used to like to watch this video too, way back in the day when we were young and didn't have so much of this gray hair, right? And that was the video Live Without a Net, which was the Van Halen 5150 tour from like 1986 in New Haven, Connecticut. And the tone on that album was something that, this was my first sort of time hearing anything that sounded like that had that detuned kind of swirly, chorusy, but, medium overdrive, I would say, but just huge guitar sound that he had. It was one of my favorite sounds that he got. I mean, not knocking any of the early stuff. That was just incredible. But I also fell in love with this particular sound. So I've always been... trying to make it and duplicate it. I've had a few different rigs that have sort of accomplished that sort of goal. But this time we're going to go and accomplish it through sort of like the paradigm that I've been working on here, which is all on a pedal board and using these little pedal fire amplifiers. And thank you to everybody that's been getting those Jose pedal fire Moto teddies. That's probably half the reason why I haven't been doing a video, is I've been stuck under a soldering iron. But in any case, with those, COVID's taking its toll and we're running out of transformers, we're running out of parts, so we'll see how long we can keep that going. We don't know. But what we're going to do is we're going to explore building a pedal board with the little pedal fire type pedal, IR pedals, and some Eventide units, a mixer, compressor pedals, all kinds of gates, and we're going to build a switch box for it all, breakout box, and show you how that all goes together. And it's an interesting sort of, it's an interesting signal chain, I'll say that, because what you're dealing with is parallel stereo signal paths. All right, there are some block diagrams, a few that are out there, of the Bradshaw system that was used on that tour, and you can clearly see that you're basically dealing with a left and right signal that combines in parallel a dry signal, a delayed signal, and a detuned and uptuned signal from two Eventides, right? And those are all combined in parallel in a Rain mixer, right? And when you start combining all these signals in parallel, you end up with all these phasing issues. But when you get those sort of all balanced out right, it really contributes to getting that particular sound. And I was actually amazed at how, that seemed to be the trick. So we're going to be using some pretty, not the same exact stuff like we got in the racks over here with the old, Eventide Harmonizer rack units and the Rain EQ. We're going to be using an Art mixer, Eventide small pedals, and things like that. So let's just start, and I'll see you downstairs, and we're going to start describing the signal chain. Okay, so I'll see you then. All right, so we are back, and it is good to be back downstairs in the kitchen lab. to build some more things for you. So we're gonna make ourselves our pink drink so we can get all hyped up and make a bunch of goofy mistakes while I'm talking because I'm over caffeinated. This time we're gonna use some seltzer water to make our pink drink. So it's like a carbonated version. And what's really cool is if you leave the top on it and you forget about it, and then you open up again, the top blows off and hits you in the face. So here we go. So here we go. All right, we're gonna start with talking about the signal chain, right? Because it's sort of a unique, at the time anyway. Maybe it was unique. It isn't now. Maybe then it was. I don't know. But it was sort of a Bradshaw thing, and I think, you know, that Eddie always was going for that Bradshaw sort of architecture. Even when there was no Bradshaw, so to speak. I think he was always working towards having a wet-dry system with a master head, with effects placed after the master head, and the system that he was using in the club days evolved into, you know, what we have today. And actually, I got a chance to look at that rig at one of the shows a few years ago, and it's become even more complex, but it sounds great. But this was sort of like the first sort of like, let's say, MIDI switchable rack system, I think. So anyway, let's start with the signal path. So, you know, obviously you would have your guitar first, so we're not going to bother with that, but we're going to put in, you know, some of these little squares here for everything. So this would be, you know, your main amp, right? And for that, I should introduce you to the Moto Teddy Tour model, right? This is something I've been goofing around with for the past couple of weeks in my spare time. And this is what I theorized to be the amp that was used around that time. And it's based upon my experiences working a little bit with Green Day, who used some Mxr modified Marshalls, you know, the Dookies. It's not a Dookie mod, but his sound sounded a lot like Eddie's back then. I mean, he doesn't use the detuning and all that stuff, but I was like, man, your rig sounds really good. So, you know, I did a little poking around, and I sort of know, you know, had a good idea of what was in there anyway. And then looking at, you know, what was available about like crunch mods and things like that, and then the Jose that I have, and all this experience that I've had with different modifications of amplifiers led me to sort of get an idea of what I thought the architecture might be, and then design an amplifier or a little Moto Teddy around that. All right, so we're going to be using this as the brain. We might put a boost in front of it, and I'll explain why. All right, and then the guitar, right? So the boost may be there for just one thing, and I'll sort of explain what that is as we go along. All right, so we had the main amp, right? The main amp would have gone into a compressor, right? And he used a Rocktron compressor unit. From there, it would basically go into this Lexicon PCM70, right? So you got a Lexicon PCM70, right? And that's what split the signal stereo, right? So you would have these two stereo outs. Now, there was, I believe, a breakout box at that point, right? So you'd have a breakout box. And a breakout box is just a passive box that allows for, let's say, 2 connections to be turned into 8 connections or 6 connections or however many connections you want. So it's just passive. It has a lot of wires connecting, and it's just input and output jacks. That's all it is. All right, so we basically are going to have this breakout box, and then it feeds parallel signals, right? So we're going to have and in stereo, right? We got a left and a right. And if I start messing this up, forgive me, because I am dyslexic. So I'll move words around, I'll do things backwards, but I apologize, I can't help that. Anyway, so the signal would be broken out into sets of stereo, right? I love harpsichords. Those are pretty cool sounding. If that's what that is, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's a harpsichord. So anyway, we have our then we have our mixer, right? We have our mixer here. Okay, so you see we've got 2 in and then we've got 6 out. So each left and right is being split up into 3 individual outs that are all running in parallel, right? Not in series. So the first set would go to 2 units, which would be delays, right? And then those would feed into the mixer. Then the second would just be dry, right? So this is all dry. Okay? And then we, over here, this next thing would be feeding 2 more boxes here, which would be harmonizers, right? The eventides. So harm and harm, right? And then those would be fed into the mixer as well. Okay? And then it would come out left and right into the H and H. Power amps and out to the speakers. So this is sort of a basic diagram of what his signal chain would have looked like, right? So as it's been explained, I'm sure on many forums many times, and that's where I got my information too. I'm not claiming to have discovered this on my own. Well, you know, I mean, it was even published in a guitar magazine that I had plastered to my bathroom wall for reading every day for like 4 years, trying to contemplate what the signal chain was as described by Zeke Clark, his old tech. And I got to meet Zeke one time too, which was kind of cool. He was working for Kenny Chesney, and we worked on an amplifier together and burned our fingers. So that was cool to meet Zeke. So anyway, back to this. The delays are basically set. Let me back up again. All right, so the compressor to the lexicon. The lexicon is only used for cathedral, right? And it gives you like a 420 millisecond slap, all right, with 1 repeat, maybe 1.2 repeats, something like that, before it gets into the breakout box. If it's bypassed, then you're just getting the direct signal split stereo into the breakout box. I wonder why he had 420 milliseconds. I wonder if that has anything to do with something that happens at 420. Anyway, so that's specifically for cathedral. You've got the 2 delays here, one of which we have been told. Now, I don't know what the exact ones were millisecond-wise, but I've heard somewhere along the lines of like 220 and like 440 work good for left and right, and then that gives you a very kind of ambient sort of space for your guitar to sit in. The dry signal is dead down the middle, and that's the primary. That is most of the tone is going to be dry. We're going to be adding a little bit of the delayed signals left and right into the output as combined in the mixer. And then we have the 2 harmonizers. Let's say they're +3 and -3 cents, right? Detuned and uptuned. And then those are fed in as well to the mixer and combined with the level controls on the mixer. And this is really important. What we're talking about with these different parallel signals paths, the phasing isn't perfect, right? It just can't be. I mean, I suppose you could spend a lot of time and really try to make the phasing exactly perfect, but it wouldn't even be worth it. So the trick with this is setting all your levels on the mixer to the correct levels, into which you end up with this tone that you can't get any other way but having these parallel signal paths, okay? So this is what sort of we're going for, and we're going to do it on a pedal board. All right, so what are we going to use? Let me we can leave this here. Let's say for our main amp, obviously we're going to be using the Moto Teddy Tour model. For the Lexicon PCM 70, we're going to use 1 eventide time factor, which allows us to have a mono in and stereo out and set our delays for left and right differently, right? So this is going to take the place of the PCM 70. It's going to go into a breakout box, which we're going to build, and that's going to be our first segment, right? Is going to be building a kind of cool little breakout box as well as a bypass system for all the things that we want to do. This will be like our little pedal board, or rather our interface, as well as the breakout box, and we're going to be using these kind of cool little these stomp switches I got, which are really cool. They're illuminated rings, and they got the big buttons on them. These are kind of cool. We're going to be using that. Oh, I almost forgot. There's a Hush after the mixer, right? A Hush 2C. And he had a, the Hush actually had an exciter imager on there, and I have that unit. And I don't think he used the exciter imager on that, but I could be wrong, but I don't think he did. He said he didn't, and he said he just used it for the Hush, and I kind of sort of believe him. So anyway, we're back to, this will be the interface breakout box. Then we're going to have another delay, which will be the second time factor. So we've got 2 time factors that we're going to be using for this rig. All right, and then we've got the harmonizer, right? 2 harmonizers, which will be accomplished with 1 pitch factor, which obviously allows you to have stereo in, stereo out, and different tunes or different settings for each left and right, up tune, detune. You could do that sound perfectly with this guy. I should say they don't sound exactly like, you know, the real Eventide old, you know, 949, 969, 910s. Those had Compander cards in them, these DBX sort of cards in them that really kind of fatten things up a little bit too. That may be an idea one day, is to use make a Compander pedal, stereo Compander pedal. We'll have to put that on the back burner. All right, so then we've got that, and then we've got all right. So we did our dry signal, which will be coming out of the breakout box that we're going to make, and then we're going to combine it all in this guy here, which is an Art Power Mix 3, right? Which has, these are all the inputs, right? So we got channel 3, channel 2, channel 1, and then 2 outputs left and right. Right, so we could do, one set will be dry, dead down the middle, one set will be the delay left and right, and one set will be the harmonizer. So this really works perfectly. And on the front you've got panning controls, so you can pan them to different sides like the Rain had, and adjust your levels of each channel and combine them in a way to get your phase angles right. And then you've even got a headphone out, which is kind of cool, because with the system that we're going to be using, you can use headphones. So then you have your master and your headphone out, which is kind of cool. Okay, so those are sort of like the basic pedals that we're going to be using. And the Hush. We're going to use this, which is a Hush 2X, which is a pedal version, a stereo in, stereo out, right? So we can quiet it all down. For the compressor unit, we're going to use this guy here, which is a Rocktron Big Crush. It sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound exactly like the 300 series. I've got one of those, but it sounds pretty cool, I think. I think they probably used a similar sort of compressor in there, but we're going to be using it, and maybe for a different reason than he did, because of one thing. And where is it? It's gone, the IR pedal. Where is the IR pedal? Here it is. All right. This is going to be taking the place, right, of the speakers. And this kind of has an element of compression to it as well. So we're going to place that somewhere in the chain to basically give us our speaker simulations, right? So this is an addition. That wasn't in the real one, but is necessary for what we're doing. And finally, the Eventide space, which will be on the output. All right, so I'm going to describe the signal chain of the pedal board in detail in a quick second. But this will give us that big reverby sound of you know, New Haven Coliseum, which, although wasn't very big, that particular Live Without a Net video has a lot of spacious reverb on it, and I'm sure most of that was done after the concert. So anyway, no offense on that. So let's go ahead and do our pedal board signal chain. All right, so let me get a piece of paper. And I know these videos sometimes go on a little rambling, but that's okay, because I'm nuts. And it's just something to listen to, right? And get some ideas on, and eat your cookies and peanuts while you're having a sandwich or something like that, and look at all this crap. So anyway, this is going to be our pedal board, and it's going to be a 2-tiered pedal board that we're going to build. I'm probably not going to be able to show you the build of it. It's going to be made out of Baltic birch, and I'm going to build it over at my partner's place. this time. All right, so it's going to have 2 levels on it, top level, bottom level. All right. Now, let's start with it. What we're going to do is we're going to have a boost pedal here, and this is going to be just for cathedral. We're going to have a loop just for cathedral, all right, for doing that sound, which would involve a slight boost into the front of the amp to help get the, you know, a lot of signal on a volume swell easily. It's probably going to have the compressor in that loop to allow us to, you know, what does come out to kind of be brought to a very high level as well. So a tiny little swell on the volume control will lead to a big sort of bloom. And to keep it all really kind of cool sounding, we're going to use this smart gate. All right, so that's going to be in what I'm going to call the cathedral loop. All right, the boost pedal, which we're going to use this right here, this Moto Teddy boost pedal that I built, which is just an FET in there. It's really the Dumble FET circuit from a Dumble amp. So it's, you know, just a very clean sort of high-powered boost, which I think will work good for this. So that'll be in sort of like the cathedral loop. So let me get that out of the way. I hope this is making sense. I know it's a lot to kind of take in, but when we were building it and when we're demonstrating how it works after we finish building it, I think you'll get the idea of what we wanted and how it all worked out. All right, so anyway, so this will be the boost right here. We're going to put, let's say, the Moto Teddy tour model, which is basically a modified plexi circuit, right? So we'll call this the Moto Teddy tour model. All right, so we got that there. So we'll come out of the boost up into the Moto Teddy tour model, and that'll be the input. All right, so this is our input from our guitar. From there, we're going to have basically, let me see if I can get a bigger box here to draw with. We don't need to make perfect, right? So we'll do, we're going to have 3 boxes on the bottom level, right? So this will be 1. And this is going to be our loop, cathedral loop, and interface, and mute. Okay, so we're going to have 3 switches on this. All right. This one will be for delay, to turn that on and off. This one will be to bring in the cathedral loop. And this one will be for bringing in the harmonizer. Okay? So we're going to have, obviously, an input here, right? Then we're going to have a send and a return, right, for the, and then an output for the sort of, you know, for the loop. Send and return and output for the loop. Okay. So I think what we'll put next is we'll put the, let's say we put the Rocktron next, like right here on the board. And I've already pre-measured this stuff, so I know it's going to fit, which might be cheating, I don't know. So this is going to be the Rocktron comp. And next to it is going to be the Noise Gate, right? So this is the Mxr Noise Gate. Okay. All right, so let's look at what we got. So we're coming into the boost, which will be defeatable, into the Moto Teddy tour model, out of which we're going to be going into the cathedral loop interface mute box, which we're going to be building obviously into this, right? So let me draw that in. So that's coming from the output of the Moto Teddy, right? And then the send will go to the Rocktron. Rocktron will be connected to the Noise Gate, and then Noise Gate will come back out to the return in the loop on the interface pedal, and clicking this little button here will allow us to turn on and off this loop right here. All right. So then we have the output of this particular unit right here, right? And well, I didn't leave room for it, but we'll put it here. All right, and this is gonna be the space, right? Space 1. All right, so that'll be this pedal right here, which will split it stereo. Okay, so we'll go out of this little loop box, and then the space will come out stereo, right? So we'll come out stereo. Okay, and then we'll have right here the space, or excuse me, not space. See, I am an idiot, but we already knew that. This is called the time factor. Time factor. This is gonna look like a soup sandwich when I'm done with it. Anyway, so this is a time factor 2. Okay. So what we're gonna have then is in the breakout, it's gonna be split right into all these different ones, feeding the inputs of these two other eventide pedals on either side, right? This will be the harmonizer. See? Harmonizer. Okay, there we go. All right, so we'll have one set here, right? We'll have another output here, right? And then we will have up in this corner, right here, just below our, just right here, we'll put this here, and this right here. Just drawing 2 boxes up here. Okay, so this will be our mixer, and this will be the space reverb. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the time factor out, and that'll go to the mixer, channel 1. We're going to have 2 dry that are coming out of here. This will be mixer 2, channel 2, right? And these are dries. So, and then the harmonizer will come out left and right, and this will be going to the mixer, channel 3. Okay, so we combine all of those things in the mixer. So we got channels 1, 2, and 3. All right, the output of the mixer is going to go into the reverb to give us our reverb. And then on top of this mixer, right, let's put our mixer down, right? On top of the mixer, we're just going to mount the Rocktron, right? So we'll put the hush on top of the mixer. 2C, what do they call it? 2X instead of a 2C? Okay. So the Rocktron will sit on top of there for space savings. And then the hush will go out to the speakers. Okay? And this is for a mute. I'm just putting this down so we know what they do. Alright, so this will be our pedalboard architecture. So I'll go through it just once again. Oh wait, we forgot to put in the IR pedal. It was supposed to go right here. IR pedal. So what we're going to end up doing actually is taking this out. Alright? We're going to put the IR pedal here. So we're going to come out of the cathedral loop box with a, right, with the dry, right, and go into the IR pedal, and out of the IR pedal into the space delay. All right, so this is sort of our layout for our board. Now I could just draw that on another sheet of paper, because we'll use this for when we're building our board for the signal flow as it would sort of appear. So we're going to have guitar, right, into the boost, into the Moto Teddy, right, into the, let's call it the interface box. And out of the interface box, we could go into a loop here, right, which would be the compressor. And then into the gate, Mxr Gate, right? And then that can return as a loop, right? So we can kind of put this in this loop. The interface box then will come out and go into the IR pedal, which is the hot one, or hotone. From the IR pedal, we would go into the time factor. Okay, and then the time factor is going stereo, right? And that is going into the interface box again. And we'll call this interface box, we're going to call this the cathedral loop, right? So it's going to return into that box where it's going to get split again. And this will be into time factor 2. So let's call this time factor 1. Right? Dry. Into harmonizers. So that is the pitch factor. Okay. Then we're going to go all of these stereo. Into the mixer. And then the hush. And then out into monitors. Right, full range. So basically, you can play with this with headphones, you can play with this with your monitors, you can plug it into the front of house at a gig, and you will have your entire sound without the need of guitar speakers or any of that stuff. Uh-oh, sounds like we got an emergency. Let me hit the mute on this for a second. Must be a big storm coming. Scary. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So we got the guitar going into the boost pedal, into the amplifier, and then into one half of the interface box, which will allow you to access this loop of a compressor and a gate. That's going to exit the interface box into an IR pedal. The IR pedal is going to be going into a time factor, which will split it into stereo. Those two stereo outputs are going to be going into the second part of the interface box, which will split it into 6 signals. 2 for the time factor, 2 for the pitch factor, and 2 for dry, left and right. And we'll be able to mute the inputs of the pitch factor and the time factor by the interface box as well. So we could take those out, because if you actually defeat the pedal, like the time factor or the eventide in these positions, it blows the whole phase relationship up. And the rig starts to sound like you got a frozen flanger on it. So that's the reason why on the original branchless system, I believe they had mutes instead of just using the dry bypass. Although I think that the Roland delays, the SDE 3000s, had a true bypass already in them. So that would allow for an unmolested signal to be recombined if you bypass. But I still think there was mutes there, according to some of the diagrams I've seen of the branchless system. All right, so that's sort of what we're going for. I hope that makes absolutely no sense. I think this has been going on way too long for right now. But when next we meet, I'm going to be showing the design of the interface box, and we're going to build the interface box. So that'll be fairly shortly. We're not going to wait a long time to get to that. All right, got all the parts we need. So once again, I hope you find some of this stuff interesting, and I'll see you real soon.